Welcome to Aspire to Retire. I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. I'm here with Ralph and Tim Shore, along with Scott Earhart, all from Welcome Home Financial Partners. Good to be here with you guys.
Thanks, Cheryl.
Always exciting to do this. And on today's show, we're going to discuss the impact that taxes have on your retirement nest egg. Did you ever imagine that all of your money that you have saved up in your retirement accounts may not all be yours? Yeah, taxes could be one of, if not your largest expense during retirement. So buckle up, because it is time to discuss the importance of a proper tax plan for your retirement years. Okay, I've got my seatbelt on, guys. We want to talk about this because taxes always give me the heebie-jeebies. So why is it important to think about taxes before you retire?
Because nobody ever thinks about them. Because we've been told when we retire, we're going to be in a lower tax bracket. So we just kind of
right. Push it off to the side.
And the other thing about it is most people don't think about taxes but one time a year, right? When is that?
Now.
April 15th.
Around
October
this time.
15th,
Yeah.
But now you're going to have to remember everything that you do is going to be taxable for most people.
I don't
Would you
like that
agree?
answer.
Well, it's true. Most everything that we're going to utilize in our retirement years is going to be taxable. So that's why we think it's so important to work with a financial professional that can help you create different buckets of money so that when you do take dollars out, you can be as tax efficient as possible.
Okay, so let's talk about what tax planning for retirement means in simple terms, because a lot of the time I feel like all of these words are thrown out there and it all goes over my head. So how do we break it down?
Well, it's pretty simple, right? A lot of people nowadays, they use all their savings go into pre-tax buckets, 401ks, traditional IRAs, whatever the case may be. So if you've got $1 million saved up in your 401k and it's all pre-tax, that $1 million isn't all yours because Uncle Sam wants his hand out for some of that money, right? So it could save you a couple $100,000 in your retirement years if you plan properly, because it's not about what you make, it's about what you keep.
What you keep.
It's absolutely about what you keep. And what I've found, and I think what all three of us have found, is a lot of people don't understand this. They're not tax experts. I mean, you don't go to work for 40 years to study taxes for the vast majority of people. And Tim and I started doing something, live events on the first Fridays of every month. And one of the topics that we really hit on is taxes in retirement and how you can prepare yourself to distribute money and keep what you make.
And I think a lot of people need to understand, because we see a lot of people that think, oh, I'm 65, I don't have to pay any taxes. I'm retired, I don't have to pay any taxes. It has nothing to do with age or whether you're in retirement or not. It's called income. How much income do you make? That's what they're going to depend on what your taxes is going to be.
Okay, so it seems like there's some misconceptions about it. And so what are some of the most common mistakes that people make with their retirement savings and their taxes?
Well, if you're just going to utilize pre-tax money, that could be one mistake. But everybody's going to be a little bit different, right? So as we're working, you've got your taxes coming out of your paycheck. That's why it's so often overlooked of, oh, hey, now I have to create my own paycheck in retirement. I did not now realize that all of that's going to have to be taxable as well. So, a lot of people need to take a look at different options, not just a 401k or an IRA. You could use a Roth IRA. There's a lot of things that you can do, but you have to seek that advice to do it, right? So everybody just wants to funnel all this money into the 401k, not knowing what that end result's going to look like.
And the issue would be for a lot of people, I'll give you an example. I had a client that we were speaking with that he did not realize the effect that RMD is going to be on his taxable. All of a sudden, he's got to start taking out $120,000 a year as an RMD. And he had he didn't have any need for it, but he has to take it. So now that's going to bump him up. And the biggest problem a lot of people need to understand is if you're right there below this tax bracket, if it kicks you up into a different tax bracket, guess what that's going to be like? You're going to pay more taxes
More
on
money.
Right.
And when you say RMD, I know not everybody might know what that stands for. So define RMD, and then why is it so important for tax planning?
So RMD stands for Required Minimum Distribution. The way the tax code or laws, regulations, whatever we want to call them, are written right now, at age 73, you have to start taking distributions from your pre-tax accounts, your IRAs, 401ks, whatever that may be. And it's on a percentage scale, and Uncle Sam tells you you've got to take this much. If you don't, there's some pretty rough repercussions that could cost you quite a bit of money.
How do people know that they're supposed to take this money out at 73?
Well, they're supposed to, wherever their money is, somebody's supposed to be able to tell them how much you have to take out. But the other thing that you need to understand, in my opinion, is what's going to affect all those situations, okay? Because now, if you did not take this out like Scott was talking about, there's some penalties and things like that. But why is the government forcing you
Yeah.
to do that? Think about it. If you leave your money into your IRA, your 401k, whatever, you don't have to pay any taxes on it. So if you got $1 million account sitting there that the government doesn't have any access to that taxes because you didn't take it out, do you think they're happy about that? I don't believe they are. So that's the reason they came up with these things.
So even if you don't necessarily need that money at 73, you have to take out. And what is that minimum? Does that depend?
Yeah, it depends on your age. It depends on the account value, but it's all pre-tax money. So if you've got other monies in different vehicles, then you won't have to worry about that RMD, right? So there are ways around. There's qualified charitable distributions, those kinds of things. Life insurance, I know, is one thing that you can utilize for some retirement income that doesn't fall into the RMD realm. There's a lot of other things that happen, but if you don't get that advice, you could be looking at some penalties, right? So every company is supposed to send you out a letter of your account value on December 31st of the previous year to show you what you need to pull out. Sometimes, of course, with the mail service, we don't know if we're going to get them. But if you're not working with somebody, how do you know how these rules are going to affect you? Because they've changed this rule, 2-3 times in the last few years. So you've really got to be up to speed on that.
Oof, I would have no idea. So I'm glad that we're talking about this. And are there ways to reduce how much tax that we have to pay on our retirement income? Is there anything else we can do?
So there's a lot of ways that we can reduce, what's known as taxable income. Tim hit on a couple, funding life insurance.
Yeah.
We've talked about Roth IRAs in the past. There are outlets out there, but the key to that is you've got to start earlier thinking about that. You've got to start talking about that pre-retirement. When you get to 73 and all of a sudden you're getting these letters that you've got to take RMDs, that's not the time to try and make some changes, because you're just going to end up getting more confused, screwing things up.
Gosh, how often should we look at our tax plan, our retirement plan?
I would say at least once a year you need to kind of understand where your taxable income is coming from, because then you can kind of say, can I adjust it? Do you need to take less money out unless you have RMD issues than what you're taking out to reduce that taxable income?
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Well, it's time to take a brief break. We're going to open up the phone lines, but before we do, Tim, you have a special offer for us.
We do, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 or more for retirement, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'd love to personally invite you into the office where we will talk about some tax strategies and create your retirement roadmap, and it's on a complimentary basis.
All right, Tim, thank you so much. And yes, we're going to open up those phone lines. So if you'd like some personal advice about retirement planning or to schedule an appointment, call 833-897-4845 or simply scan the QR code on the bottom of your screen. All right, coming up next, we will discuss different strategies for your retirement and the role taxes play and more. So yeah, we're continuing to talk about taxes. Stay with us.
Imagine the future you've been wanting all along. A world where your retirement income is covered and you don't have to worry. Your financial assets are protected, and you have an experienced team fighting every day to grow your assets. Imagine a company creating tax strategies and legacy plans to make sure your loved ones are protected no matter what happens. At Welcome Home Financial Partners, we're an experienced financial team with the right professional licenses and an unbreakable commitment to making our clients feel like family. Here you'll find determined, friendly faces in a world filled with obstacles and problems. We help plan your retirement income to ensure you won't run out of money in retirement. We build in protection to make sure your assets are covered on all sides. We focus on growing your wealth to combat inflation and rising cost of living. And we design tax strategies to help you avoid paying back what you shouldn't while protecting the people you love. Our team never stops fighting for you. With an unparalleled work ethic, we work hard because we know your future depends on it. We're proud to help you choose the life you want to live in retirement. Welcome to your financial future. We're so glad you're here.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. We're talking all about taxes today. It's something that none of us can avoid. And we're trying to figure out ways that we can look into this and save money with taxes. And so I know we touched on life insurance. Guys, how can life insurance play a role in retirement tax planning?
One of the things I always tell people is life insurance is probably one of the most versatile tools, financial tools that you have to kind of adjust and do what you want it to do, to adjust to your goals. So one of the things that in life insurance is this. People buy it for death protection to create an estate, and there's people that try to minimize the death benefit, but the advantage of tax-free income coming back to them. So it's according to what your purpose is and what your goal is as how you buy. And what I mean by that is this. If you had a need for $500,000 of life insurance, you can purchase it for $50 a month or $1,000 a month. Which one would you buy?
Well, $50 a month.
Well, most people would say that, but what is your goal? If your goal was just death protection to create an estate, you're right. But if your job was to create a plan that you have a lot of money that's tax-free coming back to you, then you would start taking $1,000 a month, because guess what? You're going to have a lot of money that you can get to, and not in this one.
So all of that money that you're paying for your life insurance per month, you don't get taxed on that? Is that?
No, what I'm saying is once you start taking the money out of the life insurance policy, it has to be tax-free.
I see. Okay.
Okay.
See, this gets confusing, guys. And for those of you watching at home, I mean, maybe you know more than I do, but this is why you guys are here, to help break this down.
Yeah, and you have to make sure that it's done properly, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be rules and regulations to everything. You got to make sure you set it up right and follow that. And if you don't follow those rules, then what you set out for might not happen. But guess what? What are the two things guaranteed in life?
Taxes.
And?
Death.
Right. So why not use life insurance for both of them, right?
Yeah. I like how you,
Absolutely. And one thing that I see a lot of people not think about, it beyond income in our own retirement, some people in retirement want to leave as much money to their children as possible or to their grandkids. Well, guess what? If you leave behind a big IRA or 401k, that's immediately taxable to the next generation. So you can use life insurance to offset those taxes and help them keep more of what you earned in the legacy you want to leave.
And to piggyback on that, right? So if you leave $1 million of an IRA to your kids, there are rules they have to follow. They're not going to be able to stretch that out over their lifetime. So life insurance is another great thing to where, number one, it's going to be tax-free majority of the time when it's left to a beneficiary, but then they can do what they want to, whether they want to blow it, right? If they want to take $1 million and spend it all, or they want to reinvest, they are able to do what they want to do at that point in time.
Dana, you see what I'm talking about,
Yeah.
versatility?
I
of life
do.
insurance?
I do. Yeah, I learn something every time we do a show with you guys. I wish that we learned this stuff in school, but I think that's why we do these shows, so we can talk more about it. Something else that I know, when people retire, a lot of the times they move to different states. Maybe they want to be close to the grandkids, or maybe they want to go to Florida, be a snowbird, what have you. How do the taxes change when you move to a different state?
Federal taxes won't change on you. Federal taxes are going to be that way in all 50 states, but each state gets to set different tax regulations, different tax rates on individuals. One of the big things that I think gets overlooked is a lot of states tax Social Security and a lot of states don't tax Social Security. So when we see people that want to move, whether it's to be in a warmer climate, be closer to grandkids, whatever it may be, they've really got to take a look at that, because it's when we talk about taxes in retirement, it's just not federal income taxes, it's state income taxes.
Really?
As well.
What does Virginia do with Social Security?
Virginia doesn't tax Social Security. So we're in a pretty good state, but there are many, many states that will tax it, and many states where retirees want to move because the climate's better that will tax it.
But I think
Interesting.
other things that people, they start thinking about moving somewhere. There's a lot more cost when you start doing things like that. You might be selling your home here to go somewhere else. You might have capital gains taxation, things of that nature. But the other thing is this, if you move to, say, a warmer climate and your kids are still here, you got to think about how much is it going to cost me to travel back and forth to see the grandkids, because I can tell you from experience, my wife likes to be around her grandkids.
Oh.
Okay? So
That's
it might be
sweet.
a little bit more expensive than you anticipate.
Well, don't you too like to be around the grandkids?
I was going to ask that question too.
Some days.
Some days. Oh, we're breaking them down
That's
little
right.
by little there. I like that. Now, guys, I know we've been talking about IRAs. What about a Roth IRA? Because there is a big difference there when it comes to retirement and taxes, right?
Oh, absolutely. The difference, when you want to talk about it simply, right? When you're putting money into an IRA, 401k, anything that's pre-tax, you don't pay taxes on it as you're making those contributions, right? So that's nice. You get a tax break now. If you are one of those people who make more money now than you will in retirement, then it's probably better to have the tax break while you're working versus having it in retirement, okay? When it comes to the Roth, everything that you put in, everything that you make contributions towards there is already been taxed, okay? So you don't get the tax break now. But as you get into retirement, as long as you play by the rules, there's a 59.5 and a 5-year requirement. You're able to take everything out without paying taxes. So that's a benefit, but you've got to sit down and take a look at your numbers, which is why we have this retirement roadmap process, because maybe we can benefit of doing some Roth and some pre-tax dollars while you're still working in order to effectively have the best income streams coming back to you in retirement. It takes a look at your tax planning.
I think a lot of people hear the word about Roth conversions. They talk about, oh, we want to do this. We don't want to pay any taxes in retirement. Well, that's true. That's what it will do for you. But guess what? You're not escaping the Uncle Sam tax man.
Right.
You're going to be paying it up front. So if you convert, say, $200,000 traditional IRA over, that full $250,000 is taxable that minute you do that.
Ouch.
So
Yes.
it doesn't make a lot of sense to do that. When people start to think about things like that and say, oh, maybe that's not a good idea. Or
Right.
we have to take a look at your situation, individual situation. You may need that tax break down the road. Some people may not need it today. So it just depends on you.
And the Roth can be tricky though, right? Because aren't there limits to how much money you can make?
Yeah,
How does that work?
So high income earners won't be able to contribute to a Roth, where they could still possibly contribute to a traditional IRA, get the tax write. That's where you hear, if you see stuff about backdoor Roth IRA, that's where that comes into play. But if you earn over a certain amount, you are not legally eligible to directly contribute to a Roth IRA.
Okay.
But that's where life insurance would work for those higher wage earners.
Really?
Yeah.
What are
Because
those
there's no
amounts,
limits.
by the way?
Well, they change every
Yeah.
year, right?
Oh,
So that's
okay.
you give us a call. We'll run through all that stuff. But what we want to do is take a look at your income, your expenses, your assets, and then we can kind of formulate a plan from there.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And now, what about if people need the money? They've got this money in these pots, in the Roth IRA, in the IRA, 401k. What if they want to take it early? Is that bad to do?
Well, you have to define what early means, right? But while you're working, you need to focus on trying to save as much as you can, whether that's going to be in Roth, if you're able to do a Roth, if that's going to be pre-tax. You've got to focus on your accumulation years while you're working. As you're getting closer to retirement, that's when you need to flip the script. And now it's, hey, how are we going to take out this money out of my pre-tax vehicles, out of my Roth vehicles? What does that look like? Because if you got everything in the market as well, do you really want to pull out money from an account that's not doing well? So everything's going to work together, right? Every gear's got to work in the same direction.
Okay, good to know. Well, guys, it's already time for another commercial break. But before we do that, our special offer once again.
All right, thanks, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 more for retirement, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'd love to personally invite you into the office where Scott, myself, or Ralph will sit down with you and create your very own retirement roadmap. And best part is we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
Love that. And it's fun to sit down with these guys and talk in person too. Yeah, they actually know how to have a good time. Well, guys, keep those questions coming because you got to make sure you take advantage of these guys, our professionals, and call for advice right now. Or yes, schedule that consultation. Once again, 833-897-4845 or scan that QR code. Coming up next, it's my favorite part of the show. We'll feature some of your burning questions. Don't go away.
It was the longest running bull market in history. Everything was looking up. While inverted yield curves pointed to a recession, the market kept going. And then, if you're planning to retire soon, that could spell bad news for your returns. Our team can help you better withstand the bear market. Now more than ever, you need a financial professional to stand with you. Visit our website to learn more about our services. You can call or email our office to schedule your complimentary consultation today.
Welcome back to Aspire to Retire. It is our favorite part of the show. Time to feature some of your questions. So we're going to get right to it and start with Marshall from Bonaire. Marshall says, how much control do I have when it comes to my taxes in retirement?
Well, right now, while you're working, you've got some control, right? But at the end of the day, we've talked about this numerous times, you're always going to pay Uncle Sam, right? So while you're working, you've got the opportunity. Everybody just focuses on that 401k, right? I want to funnel everything into my employer-sponsored plan. But what about, let's take a look at some other investment options while you're working, whether that's a standalone Roth IRA, another traditional IRA, those kinds of things. Because while you're working, you've got some flexibility and you've got some control. But once you get to the retirement red zone and you hit retirement, then you're kind of left with what you've got, so that the opportunities isn't as high as it is while you're working.
And for someone like Marshall, if you did do the pre-planning, and we do have, several different buckets or types of dollars available, you've got all the control in the world. It comes down to then a question of what type of lifestyle do you want to lead? How much money do you need? And that will then define taxes. If there's leaner years where you don't want to go on a Caribbean cruise or whatever it may be, guess what? We can pay a little bit less because we don't need to take out as much money.
Okay, next up is Billy from Powhatan. Billy says, what kind of impact could there be on my retirement nest egg if I do not have a tax plan? My current advisor does not discuss taxes for my retirement. Ooh, yikes, Billy.
What I would say is there's going to be a big impact on your retirement nest egg because, like we've said before, not all of that is yours.
Right.
So you got to have a plan to minimize your tax burden. And it is not uncommon for most advisors to talk about taxes. They don't want to talk about it unless they're a tax preparer. Most advisors won't sit down with you. Would you agree with that statement? Because they just don't want to do that, because that's their focus is probably on investments, how to get you to that big number that everybody likes to talk about. But it's like we say, it's how much you keep in your pocket to utilize for that lifestyle that you really want.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with advisors being accumulation focused, helping you get that big number. I mean, everybody while you're striving towards retirement, everybody needs to have some gains in their accounts. We love to see that. But if your advisor can't help you when you get to the distribution time, if they're not willing to talk about taxes, it's time to look for somebody else. Give us a call. We'll give you a second opinion on what your plan looks like and how you are going to be taxed.
Yeah, second opinions are always good. It doesn't cost anything. So, I mean, yeah, you might as well ask. All right, Carol from Amelia says, how can someone's retirement be tax friendly? I have heard some of the discussion in today's show, and I'm afraid of what I will have to give back to the government.
Well, I would just say that you need to understand where your income is going to come from. If you have those different buckets of money, then we sit down with people and say, this is where this should come from, this is where this should come from. But most people's never seen a cash flow analysis that we do called the roadmap, because it will allow you to see and visualize what your retirement is going to look like, where your income can come from, how much you're going to need. How many people knows that? Do you?
No.
Okay.
Obviously, we're learning that I don't know a lot of stuff about all of this, which is why I continue to come back and host this show. Okay, Monica from Manchester says, I have heard a lot about taxes today. How should I take distributions from my pre-tax account?
That's going to be focused on you, right? So there's a lot of information that we need to see in order to answer that particular question. What I will tell you, between tax strategies and with the stock market, there could be a lot of downturns in retirement. We want to make sure that we're not paying excess taxes on top of taking a hit on our portfolio. So there's a lot of things that come into. I don't want to not answer that question, but I can't answer that question without seeing that info.
That makes sense, right? That's why everybody's got to come in or give you a call to discuss the one-on-one information. Next is Hank from Chester. Hank says, sorry for this question, has nothing to do with taxes, but how do I listen to your podcast? Oh, I like that question.
Well, Hank, thank you for your interest. We love our podcast, and anywhere that you get your podcast from, you can download the Aspire to Retire podcast. We kept the brand simple, kept it consistent. So just Google, or not Google, but go to Spotify or whatever, Apple, App Store, I don't know, wherever you go. I'm tripping all over myself. Wherever you go.
We are not technology people, but if you go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I believe you can find it there. subscribe, like, whatever the case may be, whatever you want to do.
And it's fun too to listen. I always like listening to podcasts when I'm driving in the car. I feel like that's the best time to do it, right?
Right.
Because what else are you going to do while you're driving?
Just complain about
attention.
traffic.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. So take your mind off of it, go from there. Tim from Dinwiddie says, I'm approaching retirement in the next year or two, and I have an ESOP. I don't even know what an ESOP is. I'm
ESOP.
currently 57. Okay, and I want to know how that is taxed. Can you help me figure this out? And just define that, please.
An ESOP?
Yeah.
It's an employee stock option
Thank you.
pension plan. So basically, in order to answer those kind of questions, we really do need to have people come in and talk to us, bring in their documents that they've got, because every document's a little different. To have a blanket statement saying, oh, this is what you need to do, without seeing those documents in specific situations, it's kind of hard for us to do that.
And I'd tell Tim, congratulations on having an ESOP. Many ESOPs can be really, really lucrative for their employees, and that company hopefully did a good job of setting you up. But ESOPs can get pretty complicated when it comes time, and specifically on that tax question. You need to sit down with somebody that's familiar with them, that can talk to you about exactly what the tax ramifications are, because they can be pretty stark. So
Yeah, and it's important to know, we've talked about taxes a little bit, but there's also penalties. So you want to make sure, if you are 57 and if you can't pull out a distribution without being penalized, you've got to focus in on that, right? So if you get a $100,000 distribution and you only keep $60,000, is it better for you just to stay working and not retire? So there's a lot of things that come into that. So I'd say give us a call. We'd sit down with you in the office and take a look at it.
Okay, gotcha. So we are about at the end of the show here. So before we wrap up for the day, that special offer one more time.
All right, thanks, Cheryl. So the first 10 callers who have saved $250,000 more for retirement, and you want some advice from the three of us, give us a call, 833-897-4845. We'd love the opportunity to sit down with you in the office, discuss tax strategies and the retirement roadmap. The best part is we'll do it on a complimentary basis.
All right. Always love it. And guys, thank you for joining us today on Aspire to Retire. This wouldn't be possible without your viewership. And next time we will discuss the different plans for a successful retirement. And you don't want to miss this. If you'd like to get some advice or schedule an appointment, call us right now. Once again, 833-897-4845. Or simply scan that QR code on the bottom of your screen, and you could be featured on our next episode. If you don't want to wait, of course, that podcast is right there. Make sure you download that as well. On behalf of all of us at Aspire to Retire, I'm your host, Cheryl Nelson. Have a great day.